Welcome to this deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, I think I have a pretty good idea of how you operate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're insanely curious. You love the mechanics behind those big aha moments, but you also really value your time.
Right. You want the bottom line.
Exactly. You want the bottom line without drowning in just a sea of disjointed information. You want to understand the actual mechanics of what's going on in the world.
And today, we are aiming straight at a concept that, honestly, it's going to fundamentally change how you look at the sky,
Yeah.
how you look at technological progress, and really the structure of society itself.
We are asking a very specific question today. What will happen when the world sees behind the curtain for real?
What's fascinating here is that we aren't just engaging in some hypothetical thought experiment. We're analyzing the very real possibility that the fabric of our everyday reality is just, well, it's a carefully constructed veneer.
Right.
And when that veneer inevitably slips, the implications for human civilization are entirely unprecedented.
So to unpack this, we've pulled together a stack of sources that, frankly, they kept me up at night.
They're intense.
Really intense. First, we have a vivid, first-hand military account from late 2009. It's about a massive, unidentified craft hovering silently over a combat zone in Afghanistan.
Which sets the stage perfectly.
It does. Then second, we're looking at a classified-style technical report. It details an operational nuclear-powered anti-gravity platform.
Known as the TR-3B.
Right, the TR-3B. Third, we are examining the infamous 1994 Project Bluebeam conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, the blueprint for a staged global holographic deception.
Exactly. And finally, we have a really deeply analytical sociological document. It compares the global fallout of a staged supernatural deception against the historical baseline of a genuine supernatural event.
It is just a phenomenal collection to synthesize. Because this deep dive, it isn't just about cataloging cool aerospace tech
No.
or revisiting wild 90s conspiracies. It's fundamentally an exploration of human psychology and really societal fragility.
Yeah, we're looking at how a global population reacts when our baseline understanding of physics or global energy markets or even the divine just gets completely flipped upside down.
So where do we start?
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the physical reality of what might already be operating in our airspace.
The Afghanistan sighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have this primary source account that, it reads like a thriller, but it's a documented memory from a U.S. Army aviation aeromedical evacuation pilot.
A medevac pilot.
Right. So picture the environment. It's late 2009. We're at Forward Operating Base Shank in Afghanistan.
FOB Shank.
And this base is pitch black at night. Any light pollution makes you an immediate target for rockets or mortar fire from the mountains.
Right, so light discipline is absolute.
Absolutely. So this pilot, whose day job is flying a UH-60 Blackhawk into hot zones to pull out wounded soldiers, he's just sitting alone on a large equipment storage box on the flight line,
Just waiting.
waiting for his turn on a night orientation flight. He's fully geared up, helmet on, visor down, and it is dead quiet.
And that silence. That's a crucial detail for what happens next. Because in an active war zone, especially right on a flight line, your auditory senses are dialed in to an extreme degree.
You hear everything.
Exactly. A pilot knows the specific acoustic signature of every helicopter, every ground vehicle, every weapon system in the theater.
And right at that moment of just peak sensory tension, the night suddenly lights up.
An illumination flare.
Yeah, perimeter guards fired a flare to check for movement outside the wire, so the pilot instinctively looks up. But what he sees hanging in the air is definitely not a flare.
Not even close.
About 200 yards away, sitting roughly 100 feet off the ground, is a massive black triangular craft.
And it's completely silent.
Completely silent. It is motionless. He compares the sheer physical size of it to 3 CH-47 Chinook helicopters.
Wow.
Those massive twin-rotor cargo birds, right? Imagine 3 of them flying in tight formation. That's
Yeah.
the footprint of this thing.
That is massive.
And it has 4 steady yellow lights, one on each corner of the triangle, and a massive glowing light right in the center.
Which completely defies conventional aerodynamic physics. I mean, a craft of that immense mass hovering in midair without a massive rotor system or jet propulsion making deafening noise. It's physically impossible under standard aerospace engineering models.
Right, it should be deafening.
The downward thrust required to keep something that heavy aloft, you would be throwing dust and debris for a mile in every direction.
And the pilot actually notes that. He sits there, frozen on his equipment box for about 2 minutes, just bracing himself, waiting for the rotor wash to hit him, or for the deafening roar of an engine.
But nothing happens.
Nothing. Then, that large center light slowly begins to intensify. It doesn't blind him, it just grows brighter, almost humming with energy. And then the craft simply vanishes.
Just gone.
Gone. There's no acceleration curve, no sonic boom cracking across the valley, no air displacement kicking up a dust storm. 1 second it's dominating the sky, and the next, the airspace above FOB Shank is just empty darkness again.
The psychological weight of carrying a memory like that must be immense, especially when your entire profession is built on an intimate understanding of aerodynamics and flight mechanics.
Right, and he carried it in total silence for nearly a decade.
Wow.
10 years later, he's retired from the Army and working as a civilian in Huntsville, Alabama. which is an important detail in itself.
Because Huntsville is the absolute heart of American aerospace.
Exactly. It's the city born from Operation Paperclip, where German rocket scientists were relocated after World War II to build the Apollo program.
The epicenter of rocket science.
So this pilot is sitting in an office surrounded by aerospace engineers and former military aviators. He's talking to a coworker, a former OH-58D Kiowa Warrior pilot. And he decides to just casually describe the silent triangle he saw in Afghanistan.
Testing the waters.
Yeah. And the coworker doesn't laugh. He doesn't question his sanity. He just nods and says a single specific name. He says, TR-3B.
Which brings us directly into the meat of our second source, the technical report on the TR-3B Astra.
Sometimes called the Black Manta.
Right, referred to in Black Project lore as the Black Manta. This is where the physics of that pilot's sighting actually start to make terrifying sense.
Walk us through it.
According to the documentation we're looking at, the TR-3B is a highly classified aerospace platform that has been fully operational since the early 1990s.
The 90s.
Yes. The report even links it to a massive wave of public sightings in Belgium between 1989 and 1990. That was an event that involved hundreds of police reports, actual F-16 fighter jets locking onto these triangles with their radar systems.
Before the craft just accelerated away at impossible speeds.
Exactly.
So if you're listening and wondering how a massive black triangle hovers silently over a combat zone, the technical report actually spells out the mechanics.
It does.
It says the craft entirely bypasses aerodynamic lift. It utilizes something called a magnetic field disruption system,
Right.
which revolves around a nuclear-powered centrifuge. It accelerates highly pressurized mercury to generate a plasma, but I have to admit, reading the physics of how spinning mercury cancels out mass, it gets a bit dense.
It is incredibly dense, but we can simplify it. Think of the core engine like a hyper-advanced, nuclear-powered spinning top.
Okay, a spinning top.
When this pressurized mercury plasma spins fast enough within the circular accelerator, it generates an intense electromagnetic field. And this field essentially tells gravity to look the other way.
Wow.
It creates an anti-gravity bubble that reduces the craft's effective inertial mass by up to 89%.
So it literally weighs a fraction of what it should, which explains the lack of downward thrust.
Exactly. When you reduce an object's mass by 89%, you effectively nullify the g-forces that act upon it. This is what allows for vertical takeoff, silent hovering, and hyperaccelerations that would, frankly, instantly turn a human pilot into jelly inside a conventional jet fighter.
Right, because the mass is basically decoupled from normal gravitational physics.
Exactly. It can execute perfect right-angle turns at hypersonic speeds, and the report even points to recent public patents, specifically those filed in 2018 by an aerospace engineer named Salvatore Pies for the U.S. Navy.
Ah, the Navy patents.
Yes, they describe exactly this. Inertia mass reduction devices utilizing microwave emitters and high-frequency electromagnetic waves to manipulate gravitational forces.
Think about the everyday implications of this for a moment. You know, we watch the geopolitical news every single day. We see nations threatening nuclear war over fossil fuels.
Pipelines being built.
Multi-billion-dollar pipelines across continents. Global economies crashing over the price of a barrel of crude oil. And literal wars being fought in the Middle East over energy scarcity.
Right.
If this technology is real and we have a trained aeromedical pilot staring it down from 200 yards away, then humanity is currently living in the Stone Age of energy.
The Stone Age.
It is the equivalent of fighting your neighbor to the death over a piece of firewood, completely unaware that there is a fully operational, silent nuclear reactor humming away in your basement. We are living under a veneer of scarcity, entirely unaware of the physics-defying technology hovering just out of sight.
And here's where it gets really interesting. That profound technological disconnect between the classified world and the public world is what makes our next source so vital.
Let's get into it.
If governments, or perhaps unchecked elite factions within them, possess technology that can manipulate gravity, render massive craft virtually weightless, and operate silently anywhere on the globe,
Yeah.
what happens if they use that technology not just for surveillance or transportation, but to intentionally fabricate a new reality?
Right. We are shifting from classified engineering to orchestrated deception. So let's look at the 1994 writings of a Canadian investigative journalist named Serge Monist.
Okay.
He published a very detailed, very paranoid theory about an operation called Project Bluebeam. Monist claimed that NASA, working in tandem with the United Nations and other global elites, was laying the groundwork for a multi-step psychological operation.
To do what?
To dissolve national sovereignties and establish a totalitarian one-world government.
It reads like a quintessential 1990s conspiracy theory.
Totally does.
It has all the hallmarks of the post-Cold War anxiety era. But the specific mechanics Monist described 30 years ago, they are remarkably aligned with the advanced frequency and plasma technologies we were just discussing.
It is like the ultimate supervillain plot. Monist outlined 4 wild phases to Project Bluebeam.
Phase 1.
Phase 1 involves engineering artificial earthquakes at specific locations around the globe. The goal is to uncover planted, fake archaeological discoveries. And these are specifically designed to undermine the historical foundations of all major traditional religions.
Okay, so destabilize belief systems first.
Exactly. Then phase two is where the tech really comes in. We're talking about massive atmospheric space shows.
Holograms.
Yes, Monis theorized they would use advanced holograms projected into the sky to simulate celestial phenomena, like a fake second coming of Christ or a terrifying Independence Day-style alien invasion.
In the sky for everyone to see.
Right. And these projections would be tailored specifically to the dominant religious or cultural beliefs of different global regions.
And the invasion of privacy deepens significantly in phase 3.
Oh, yeah.
This phase involves telepathic electronic communication. The theory suggests using low-frequency electromagnetic waves to beam simulated divine voices directly into the minds of the population,
Literally into their head.
making individuals believe their God is speaking directly to them. And finally, phase 4 orchestrates staged supernatural manifestations alongside engineered global crises.
Create panic.
The objective is to induce such overwhelming panic that humanity willingly surrenders all civil liberties, submitting to a new world order just to survive the manufactured chaos.
I mean, it's easy to laugh off a giant sky laser deception plot from the 90s.
Sure.
But when you look at how easily people are fooled by AI-generated photos on social media today, or how sophisticated modern psychological operations have become suddenly, the idea of scaling a deepfake up to the size of the night sky doesn't sound quite so laughable.
It really doesn't.
But before we go too far down the rabbit hole, we really need a reality check on the source material.
We absolutely do. From a strict evidentiary standpoint, there are 0 official mentions of Project Bluebeam in any declassified government database.
Not...
If you search the FBI vault, the NSA archives, the National Archives, the CIA's reading rooms, you will find absolutely nothing. The theory frequently gains traction online today because people confuse it with Project Blue Book.
Which is an easy mistake to make because Project Blue Book was an actual thoroughly documented U.S. Air Force program.
Precisely. Project Blue Book ran from 1947 to 1969 out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. They formally analyzed over 12,000 UFO sightings reported by the public and military personnel.
12,000.
Yeah. And they ultimately concluded, at least publicly, that there was no evidence of extraterrestrial threats or advanced technology beyond known science at the time.
Right.
But Blue Book was an investigation program. It has absolutely no connection to Monist's claims of global holographic psychological operations.
Got it.
Furthermore, Serge Monist died of a heart attack in 1996 at the age of 51. And naturally, conspiracy theorists viewed the timing and nature of his sudden death as highly suspicious, which only cemented the mythology of Project Bluebeam in certain circles.
But even if Project Bluebeam is entirely fictional, even if it is solely the product of one journalist's overactive imagination in the mid-90s, the concept itself serves a vital purpose in our deep dive today.
It forces the question.
It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. You already know how advanced deepfakes have gotten. You've seen the AI videos. Now scale that up. With the advent of augmented reality, sophisticated directed energy weapons, and classified aerospace platforms like the TR-3B. How would humanity psychologically, financially, and societally handle a simulated global invasion or a fake divine event?
Which perfectly sets up our final and perhaps most profound source document. It is a comprehensive sociological breakdown that examines exactly how human civilizations react to reality-breaking events.
Now, to look at the sociology of this, our sources dive into a pretty heavy comparison.
The document, which is titled Incursion of the Supernatural, provides a brilliant analytical structure. It fundamentally asks, what is the difference in human fallout between a genuine paradigm shift and a manufactured panic?
Let's start by looking at the psychological and spiritual impact. What really stands out in the text is how a genuine supernatural incursion, using the historical accounts of the resurrection, as the model fosters deep, enduring psychological transformation.
It changes people permanently.
Yes. It shifted early followers from a state of absolute, terrified despair following a crucifixion into unwavering, lifelong conviction.
Right.
It built tremendous psychological resilience through verified hope, leading to organic community building. Millions of people experienced a life-altering shift that provided existential security even when facing severe persecution.
Contrast that organic resilience with the psychological fallout of a deception like Project Bluebeam.
It's totally different.
Completely. A staged event relying on atmospheric holograms and frequency manipulation wouldn't induce genuine awe. It would induce severe cognitive overload.
Just break the brain.
The initial response is engineered to be mass hysteria and panic, leading to enforced compliance. But the true psychological damage sets in once the hoax is inevitably exposed.
Because eventually the curtain always gets pulled back. You cannot sustain a holographic illusion forever. Someone talks, the tech glitches.
Exactly the point the document makes. Exposing a global deception of that magnitude would leave humanity with a profoundly fragmented psyche.
We wouldn't know what's real anymore.
The human mind is not built to process that level of institutional betrayal. You would see widespread paranoia, chronic skepticism of all reality, and deep betrayal trauma. The population would have to grapple with the realization that their deepest fears and beliefs were weaponized against them, offering no genuine resolution or hope.
What really blew my mind here is the difference in the financial fallout.
Oh, this part's fascinating.
A genuine paradigm shift historically causes people to pool resources. The genuine historical event spurred early communities to practice radical resource sharing, which dramatically reduced local poverty.
Right.
Over centuries, these ethics fueled sustainable trade and prosperity. Think of historical monasteries that meticulously preserved agriculture, literature, and scientific knowledge during the Dark Ages. It created a foundation of trust.
Conversely, the staged deception of Bluebeam relies entirely on engineered disasters and artificial scarcity. The document notes this would cause immediate, catastrophic financial chaos. We are talking about instantaneous global market crashes triggered by sheer panic, extreme resource hoarding, and the total halting of international trade.
Just absolute gridlock.
And when the exposure of the hoax occurs, it would lead to massive, society-crippling lawsuits and violent asset reallocations.
People taking what they think is theirs.
Yes. It would obliterate all remaining trust in global financial institutions because the human-orchestrated nature of the event inherently limits its lifespan. It is built on a lie, and lies are terrible collateral for a global economy.
The political analysis in the text is where the House of Cards really falls apart for the deceivers.
It really does.
The document notes that the historical resurrection actively challenged existing empires. It inspired resistance to tyranny. You see early Christians defying Roman state idolatry. And it eventually laid the philosophical foundations for concepts like inherent human rights.
The ripple effects are massive.
Huge. This intellectual lineage influenced cornerstone documents like the Magna Carta and the U.S. Constitution. It consistently shifted power away from centralized emperors and empowered the individual against the state.
If you look at the mechanics of Bluebeam, it operates on the exact opposite political dynamic.
Total control.
It is theorized explicitly as a tool to centralize power into the hands of a hidden elite. It uses fake supernatural events to dissolve independent nations and force a totalitarian structure.
Right.
The document makes a brilliant sociological point here. This type of forced political unity relies entirely on fear. Because it is rooted in terror rather than voluntary cooperation, it is highly unstable. It might achieve a short-term political realignment, but its deceptive core invites absolute balkanization.
For those who might not use that term every day, balkanization essentially means the violent fragmentation of a larger state or society into smaller, mutually hostile regions.
Right.
It's the messy, violent collapse of a society.
Precisely. Once the public realizes they have been deceived on a planetary scale, the resulting outrage guarantees violent uprisings, localized balkanization, and the utter destruction of whatever elite structure attempted the hoax.
The health perspective outlined in our sources mirrors this perfectly too. A genuine healing narrative historically promotes care for the sick and advances public health. I mean, look at the vast network of modern global hospitals originally founded by religious orders.
Right.
But a simulated invasion, that causes real physical mass casualty events. You would have deadly stampedes in major cities, a massive spike in stress-induced illnesses like heart failures, and brutal resource shortages caused by supply chain panic.
It's destructive from day one.
And long-term, the exposure of the hoax guarantees severe psychosomatic disorders and extreme medical hesitancy, bred purely from an absolute justified distrust of any central authority.
When you synthesize all these perspectives, the psychological, the financial, the political, the medical way, the document arrives at a very clear conclusion. Authentic revelations, even profoundly disruptive ones, lead to long-term ethical governance and organic, voluntary alliances.
Right.
Engineered reveals, rooted in manipulation and terror, inherently self-destruct. They might create the illusion of short-term control, but they guarantee a catastrophic long-term collapse.
Let's take a breath and recap the incredible ground we've covered today.
We've covered a lot.
We really have. We started on a dark flight line in Afghanistan with a lonely medevac pilot staring down a silent, nuclear-powered, massive black triangle that casually defied the laws of gravity.
The TR-3B.
We dove into the classified TR-3B technical specs, exploring how a spinning mercury plasma centrifuge creates a magnetic field disruption that reduces mass by 89%.
Mind-bending physics.
Then we traveled through the paranoid, holographic mind control visions of the 1994 Project Bluebeam conspiracy. And finally, we landed on a rigorous sociological breakdown of how humanity's psyche, our economy, and our political structures react to reality-breaking events.
Contrasting genuine historical resilience with the devastating fallout of a manufactured hoax.
It is a massive amount of conceptual weight to process, but it is deeply interconnected.
It really is.
And here is why this matters directly to you, the listener. We are no longer living in the 1990s where holographic conspiracies were just fringe internet forum chatter.
No, we're not.
We live in an era where psychological operations are a standard tool of statecraft. You know how advanced deepfakes have gotten? You know that black-budget aerospace programs operate decades ahead of commercial peer-reviewed science.
Exactly.
Your ability to critically evaluate what is happening behind the curtain to distinguish between a genuine paradigm shift that builds organic human unity and a manufactured panic designed solely to force your compliance is more crucial right now than at any point in modern history.
And that leads me to one final, lingering thought for you to mull over as you go about your day.
Lay it on us.
It's a subtle connection hidden right there in the technical jargon of our source texts. If you look at the TR-3B technical report, it explicitly mentions the use of high-frequency electromagnetic waves to manipulate gravity and reduce inertial mass.
Effectively allowing humanity to conquer the skies.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Project Bluebeam's entire mind control theory relies on low-frequency electromagnetic wave to beam telepathic voices and project advanced holograms into the human mind.
Right.
Both the technology meant to silently propel humanity forward into a new era, and the technology theoretically meant to entirely deceive and enslave us, they operate on the exact same invisible electromagnetic spectrum.
Wow.
This raises a profoundly unsettling question. When the curtain finally falls and the world is suddenly confronted with something in the sky that defies all our known laws of physics,
Yeah.
how will our purely human senses ever be able to tell the difference?